Hey everybody, so today we're going to do something a little different with our video. This is going to be more of a tutorial. So this is the first time we've ever really done a tutorial for our channel, and today we are going to be swapping out the gearbox in one of the slides here in the bedroom. So come on, let's figure out how to do this. Alright, so we've already done some of the prep work in here. Up above me, this is the slide that's broke. Okay, so this is the gearbox we're going to be doing, and we've already taken off the trim up here. There's two pieces of trim on either side of the slide that you gotta pop off, and then there's a piece of trim that goes across the front, like this. Alright, so we're gonna swap the camera. She's gonna follow me over here. So this is the slide, obviously pre-trim. This has gotta come off. That's gotta come off. And then this part's gotta come off. Alright? Pro tip. I've seen other people in videos, they come back behind here, alright, and they try to hit this with like a rubber mallet or something, and what they end up doing is they break this trim, or actually break this trim, because you try to beat it. Now the thing is, it's only held on by small little, like, nails, okay? Real small. You can take this thing and just yank on it, just real gently, just kind of, I mean, I could probably take it off just by doing this, just kind of moving my fist, and they'll pop off. That's it. You don't need a hammer. You don't need anything because you're going to break something else. Just use your hands, okay? The other thing, this piece of trim right here is just glued on. It's just glue. So you want to take your razor blade, follow the top, follow the bottom, because the first time we did this, we didn't do that. So when we ripped this bottom part off, it actually ripped up in here, because this is just paper. This is not wood, in case you didn't know. This is paper. So when we ripped this off, it actually ripped this pretty paper all the way up here, so we had to like do a spray adhesive and get it all back on. It was a mess. Alright, so take your razor blade here, this pops off, and then there's like 4 or 5 Phillips head screws to hold the whole thing on. It all comes off. Super easy. Alright, one of the next steps is here outside. So when you're doing this, you're actually releasing all of the cables and chains that hold the slide in place. So that's going to mean the slide's going to move, right? So let's come over here. So this is what you do outside. Now depending on what you have access to, somehow you just need to be able to support the slide so it doesn't fall when everything is released on the inside. So the only thing I've done is nice 4x4 piece of wood here, just a regular floor jack, right? Now I got a 2x4 and then another 2x4 right here. Now this 2x4 is actually going end to end from one side to the next, so that way it has a nice equal support across the slides. That way you're not like taking this one and puncturing the slide by accident, bending it, something like that. It's a nice distribution of weight when you're trying to hold it up. Okay? Now I'm sure there's probably better ways, worse ways to do this. This is just one way to kind of support the slide, because when we release everything inside, this thing can go and tilt, and there's going to be a real pickle to get everything put back in place. So now we're ready to start marking where the chains currently are. Let's go back inside.
Remember to make sure you get all 4 brackets with the white paint. You can obviously have too much paint, but I positioned and I painted the fronts and the backs of everything. We actually snapped a couple pictures because it is always nice to be able to go back and reference how it looked in the beginning.
Alright, so when we ordered the gearbox, one thing that we were told was to check the serial numbers. So we opened up this one, and I see that the serial number starts with 201, and from how we understood it, that anything that is 170 or 107, one of the two, sorry, I think it's 170, and above is a good gearbox. So they had some faulty ones that were like 170 and below. So if you're ordering a gearbox for your particular rig, now ours is a open range 427, but any like BAL system kind of operates the same way. So just make sure that you get a gearbox serial number that is 170 or higher, because those are supposed to be the good batch of gearboxes. So now let's go ahead, get this one put in, and I'll show you how these little bolts come out. Okay, so first we've got that top bolt and the bottom bolt all loosened, just to kind of release some tension. I know this still looks tight, but it's looser than it was. So now I'm gonna just kind of talk about, so these are both 3/8, the top and the bottom. Again, sizes might vary depending on your specific system. Ours is 3/8, and then our center is a 7/16. So now what we got to do, we have already done it here on the other side, and the unfortunate thing is when we did that, it still fell. I guess would be the way to say it. So it still fell a little bit. We're like 2 gear links lower than what we were. So not sure why, but it did that on the other slide when we did it, and we were able to get it figured out whenever we put everything back on. So I don't think it's the end of the world. It'll be okay. So now what we gotta do is the chain comes all the way here and goes into the center part of this bracket, which is the 7/16 size bolt on our particular one. There's a set bolt here, or set nut, sorry, here, that you gotta loosen up first, and then you just release it on the back all the way out. So the chain, like this chain is gonna come completely out of this bracket when you do it, because that's how you release the chain. There's really not enough slack or give in the chain to like loosen this enough to get it. It doesn't work. You have to take the chain completely off to get it around the gear. So let's go ahead and get this off. All right, so we had to go find us an actual A-frame ladder. Reason being, when we were using the other ladder, we were leaned up against the slide, which was then pushing it out of the RV. Like, gonna just push it all the way out because, I mean, the cables and the chain, that's what holds it in, you know? So, yeah, it was a freak out moment because Sarah was standing there and she goes, stop, stop, because we were literally pushing it out of the RV. So, we got an A-frame ladder so that way we were no longer putting pressure against the slide. Another tip, don't push against the slide when you're taking away all the support. All right, so the next step is to actually remove the gearbox from the side of the RV. So I'm holding the new one here. So it fits on the wall like that. Here, here's it for you. So on the wall, so this is how it fits. There's just bolts on the back of this bracket. Here, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them on the back. I am using a 3/8 socket. I'm noticing a trend with these sizes. So 3/8 socket, remove the 5, take them off. Now the first time I did this, I tried to just remove the gearbox itself with just these bolts here on the bottom, and that didn't work because the original bracket does not fit the new gearbox. So you have to remove the bracket and gearbox all at the same time. Alright, so we got the old gearbox off, and something to also remember is that the motor is a separate part that is bolted to the side of the bracket right here, and it goes in the side there. So there is a point where you have to take the bolts off that hold the motor to the bracket to get the bracket the rest of the way off, but it doesn't matter, the whole thing has to come off anyways. So we are now ready to get the new one installed. Whenever you put this back on, you just got to make sure, like, kind of eye it like this, like, so you know this is the top one, this is going to be in the way. So flip it around so you know this one is the first one that's got to go back on. The motor, like so.
And those were just finger tightened on ours. Not sure if that's...
The top one was.
Oh.
The bottom one I had to use a ratchet, but they weren't very tight, which might not be a good thing. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. We now have the new gearbox installed. Did not show that because it's just simply reverse what you did, right? So you just put the screws back in, got everything back on, got the 2 bolts put back on the motor. Now, if everything goes right, you should be able to take the chains, wrap them back around the gear, and your white lines should line up. Ours did not. So we actually got my dad to come and help us go to the outside of the slide and push on it. And when we did that, that brought the top and the bottom, everything back into the rig, which gave us the slack we need to take the chains and wrap them around the gear. So Sarah was inside, grabbed a hold of the chains, wrapped them back around right here, just because all this was apart, right? So just wrapped them back around the gear, and when she did that, once we pushed, you can see, you know, what's kind of left of our white marks lined up there on our center. So now we know that our chains are at least in the same spot. So from there, now we just got to make sure that our brackets are back put level up and down like this, okay? And the distance in the two cables are the same. So you can see I've still got quite a bit of slack here, and it's pretty tight down here. So I've still got to mess with the in and outs and stuff. So, and how these work, the bottom cable actually works the top of the slide, and the top cable actually works the bottom, and they're labeled on ours. So you can see top cable, but it says bottom. This is the bottom cable, and it works the top. So this is actually the cable that brings in the top of the slide, and this is the cable that brings in the bottom of the slide. So you can see here, since this cable's tight, the top of my slide is probably too much one direction than it should. So the top one's what we gotta mess with. All right, so now, kind of skipped filming a couple steps there, but that's okay. So here's what we've done. And I hope just explaining it kind of helps too. So you gotta make sure that these brackets, here, 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 and here, are up and down. So when you're doing that, you're tightening and loosening these top bolts, which are the 3/8, okay, until they're kind of even up and down, and then you tighten your center. Ideally, those white marks that you made at the very beginning of this process, that's where you're going to come to. So you're going to tighten things until you see your white marks. We also took pictures, so we tightened until we saw, like, yep, that's about where it was. So now, if you kind of see where we're at, everything is kind of equal distance, kind of like it was before. We've got pretty good tension on all of our cables. Just looking at it, everything is where it was when we took everything apart.
You want to tell them why we had the loose cable?
So we kept trying to tighten this side over here, and you can pan over here real quick. I don't think anyone will mind. On this bracket, right here, and the top kept getting nice and tight, which is the bottom cable, right? It says top. This kept getting tight. This was not. Well, come to find out, Sarah climbed down at the bottom of the slide, and there's a little keeper, right, that goes into the bracket of the slide, had popped off. So therefore, it was never going to tighten up. If we would have kept going, we would have pulled the cable, like, out of the rig. Yeah. And then we would have had a big deal.
A couple inches away from being inside the bracket.
Yeah.
But there's a rubber plastic piece that's supposed to go in the big part of the hole, so it can't do that.
Right, right. Absolutely. So she checked the other one, and it has the plastic keeper, so that's probably what kept it on. So, all right, but I think we're to the point that we're going to push the button and see if any cables snap. I think that's where we're at.
The fun part.
The fun part. Hello, fellow RVers. I hope that this quick tutorial on how to change the gearboxes out on this BLA slide systems was helpful for you. With any project like this, obviously there are certain precautions you need to take and things you need to be conscious of as you're doing them. Projects like this, especially with these slides, the cables, they can snap. There's a lot of pressure behind them. So please be careful as you tackle these, but just remember that ultimately it's not that hard, as you can see. It's just a lot of steps, and like I said, you just gotta be conscious of what you're doing. This actually happened a few weeks ago, and now we actually have another one that has one out, another gearbox that actually is the slide where our fridge is, so we'll be tackling that project soon and doing it all over again. This will make the third one we change, so only a couple more to go and we'll have all new slide gearboxes. So I guess that's something to look forward to. So just as a quick update on where we currently are, as always we covet the prayers of our community that we're trying to build here, because we are currently back at our church with a few things that went wrong. We're still having some truck issues, and now we have a roof that has been damaged by a storm, actually ripped but most of the front of the roof membrane off, which is great. So we covet your prayers, because right now we are still just stuck kind of sitting in our church parking lot, nowhere really to go. But we hope to get back on the road soon so we can continue to meet you guys, interact with you guys, really enjoy that. And as always, we would ask you to support us by liking our Facebook page, following us, subscribing to us here on YouTube. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, so we ask that you follow along with us as we continue to build a gospel-centered, mission-focused, and adventure-driven Christian RV community. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you got something out of the video.